I just want to know from your perspective, what is your definition of leadership?
I define leadership by what people do, not necessarily by what they're capable of doing. So to me, a definition of leadership is the demonstrated ability to coach, mentor, direct, do things that allow people to work better under any situation. So to me, leadership is something that you do, something that it's an actionable item. It's not something that you can do.
Okay. And that definition of leadership, is that demonstrated throughout your workday, like on a daily basis? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. My primary job is a health and safety professional, a manager of health and safety. And for me, leadership is something that I have to demonstrate every day. And as I tell all of my supervisors, managers, directors, vice presidents, it is setting the example, not being made the example of. It's something that for me on a daily basis, I am always mentoring and giving advice to and directing people, but not directing them, telling them what to do. I'm giving them advice so they can do it on their own and be better people at that while they do it. It's, again, from a health and safety standpoint, it's one of those situations where I tell people, you never run to an emergency. You might have to run away from one, but you never are anxious in getting there. You need to show that you're calm and that you're in control of yourself and of the situation. And that to me is an actionable thing that you can see. It's something that's a behavior that people do, and that's leadership.
So to go back on that, being calm and under control, are those some important leadership traits that are required for a successful leader?
I personally, and it's a personal belief, I do not listen to or I do not get motivated by leaders that are excitable, that yell all the time. And I've often said, as an example, when I coach, whether it be soccer or hockey, I've often told the people that I'm in charge of that when I want you to pay more attention, I will speak more quietly. Yelling doesn't get people to listen to you more. I think yelling just gets people to turn off. So for me, that calmness and that being in control, and it's more of a control thing. If people believe, or if you make people believe that you're in control of a situation, you can be in complete turmoil inside. You can be bubbling and burning up and wanting to yell and scream and shout. But once you do that, there's no going back. I've been in many situations, in many, especially emergency situations, where I've had to be calm and had to get people to be calm where they are screaming and yelling. And by continuing to be, in control and tell everybody that everything's going to be okay, they start believing it themselves. So it is a huge thing for me. It's something that I've always preached, because the minute that you lose control, you're not leading anymore. Or you're not leading by example. People will be pointing a finger at you versus saying, hey, look at how much that person seems to know what they're doing.
All right, so how has coaching soccer improved your ability to lead certain groups of people?
I think it's taught me several lessons. The first of which is patience. Whether it's 12-year-olds or 18-year-olds, patience is not a virtue. It is a necessity in life. I work with vice presidents, executive directors, company COOs and CEOs at my work, as well as janitorial staff and people that work on a production line. Having patience and letting them speak and hearing from them is something that I did get directly through coaching soccer. Because as a coach, I made the mistakes the first couple of years I was coaching, as I thought it was important for me to be always telling the guys what to do. That's not a good coach. A coach actually has to listen and pay attention and be observant of what's going on around them. I think the less is more lesson I also learned as a coach, what I've taken into leadership. Sometimes you don't need to over-explain things like I'm doing right now in this video. I think what you need to do is just be direct, and this is what it is. There are many people that have titles higher than me. I'm a manager, but there's people that are senior managers, directors. Again, I've worked with plant and company owners in my role in business. But less is more too. Sometimes that just, this is the way it is. There is no other way. And if people want an overt explanation for something, sorry, there isn't any. This is what it is. Those are two of the biggest lessons I've learned, and hopefully made me a better leader in both coaching for soccer and hockey, but also it's something I've taken into the business world. And I absolutely attribute that to working with 17 and 18 boys on a regular, annual, monthly, weekly basis, and learning from them what makes them have a better experience.
So when you're talking about coaching certain groups of ages or even just managing a group of people at work, do you think it's important to maybe have a vision for those certain groups of people?
Absolutely. If you don't have a vision, if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up somewhere else. A vision can be an actionable item, for example, a goal. This is what we want to achieve. We want to get to this level in anything, produce this much, have this of whatever that you're doing. A vision can just be, we all want to be rowing that boat in the same direction. If there's 8 people in a rowboat and there's no one saying row, 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 everyone's going to be going in a different direction as well. So I think a vision is incredibly important. I worked for a number of companies, for example, Canada Post, and other large-scale companies, national, multinational companies in the steel industry, automotive, Magna International. And the ones that are successful are the ones where there is a vision. Now that vision can be an attainable, achievable, realistic goal. That vision can also be, we want everyone to be doing this in exactly the same way. But there's a goal there, there's a vision. And I like visions that are actionable or things that you can see. I can see a behavior. This is how everyone we want to, and I'll give it an example. When I was with Magna Automotive, we were often told that if a phone call came in and it came to, for example, me, and working in health and safety primarily, but if it was from a customer who had a complaint, if it got routed through the wrong route, through the wrong phone line, and it came to me, I couldn't say to that person, hey, this isn't my job. I'll try to get you someone else. You took the complaint, you took the issue, you took it to the right person, and then it was your responsibility to get back to that customer that called to complain, even though you weren't the person that the call should have come to. That's leadership. That's taking charge of a situation, that's taking control, and not passing the buck either. But it was an actionable thing that we were asked or tasked to do. Everyone knew their responsibility in that we were representatives of that company the entire time we were there, regardless of our job and our title. And I've often said that to the kids that I coach. No matter where we are, no matter what you're doing, you're representing not just yourself, your families, me as a coach, but the name of the team that's on your jacket or sweater or jersey. And that comes down to a vision as well. It is a vision, it is a goal, this is how we want to see people behave and act.
Now, to end off this interview, do you believe that every group needs a leader, or can some achieve success without one?
I think every group needs a leader, but I do think that different leaders for different situations. I think it's based upon the context of what the group is. For example, some groups need someone who can motivate, someone who can be the rah-rah, the cheerleader, whether that be a captain of a sports team, whether that be a departmental manager, whether that be whatever department that you might work in and whatever company that you work for. Okay, someone who motivates, and I think that is very important. But some groups don't need a motivator. Some groups just need someone who is a technical expert, and that no, we're going off the wrong path. This isn't going to get us to our goal. Some groups need someone who is the doer, the person who will lead by example, not motivating, maybe not the best technical person, but someone who is the hardest worker, someone who is also maybe the best at doing what they're doing, and you can point to that person and say, that's the example that we want you to follow. It is different for each group. I've seen groups be massively successful because of a technical expert that was leading them, and everyone was following that technical expert's direction. I've seen groups where it was just a pure motivator. The person couldn't do the job, but they could coach, they could manage, they could mentor, they could direct, and people would follow what they were selling them or telling them. I've seen examples of different leadership from a great standpoint and from a bad standpoint. And actually, it's far easier to point out bad examples of leadership. The good ones are the ones that are successful because, it's something inherent in that person, or maybe they're the right fit for the right situation. But I think every group needs a leader. Now, whether that's a vocal or someone who's non-vocal who just does it, I don't think that all groups can be successful without one. But I think if you look at groups that are successful, majority of the time there is a defined leader in that group. Whether they stand up and say, I'm in charge, or whether it's just by acclamation, there needs to be somebody who is leading.
Are there any ending notes you'd like to give for my class?
I think everybody has the ability to be a leader. And maybe people just haven't found the situation in which they can lead in. I know for a fact that there's many people out there that will absolutely refuse leadership positions, whether it's because they're not capable of doing it, or whether they just don't want to do it, and that's absolutely fine. I think if you want to lead, and if you are thrust into that position, either or, if you've asked for it or if you've been put in there, take it, make it your own. Don't be afraid of it. The minute that you're afraid of something, even if you're really good at it, is the minute that you're not going to be successful. If you take on a challenge, whether it be leadership or whether it be doing, or you want to be the person who sets the example, just do it. Do it as well as you can. Put everything into it, because effort is something that is measurable. Leaders that don't put any effort in, maybe they might start out as a good leader, but they won't end up as a good leader. And whatever you do, just put in the effort, and that's something that everyone will follow.